Weather has been pretty quiet over the last several days, where we've only had minimal severe weather events anywhere from the southern plains back into the southeast. But unfortunately, I do think that we're going to have a lot more big storms between now all the way through the end of next week, and I do think the last week of May is bound to be one of the more active weeks that we've had this May in terms of severe weather. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down everything that you need to know about today's severe weather event all the way through the end of May, because it looks like it's about to get very active. And we are going to begin first with what the severe weather threat is for today, which is actually a pretty large area. Notice we have an enhanced risk, which is a 3 out of 5 from the Storm Prediction Center, which includes areas from Texas back into northwest Oklahoma and even into southern Kansas, where there will be some significant hail, significant damaging winds, and perhaps even a couple of tornadoes. We have a large marginal threat as well that goes from Nebraska back into West Texas, where we could also see some isolated damaging winds and isolated large hail. We also have two other areas that we're watching for. We also have another tornado risk back over in Florida, which is a 5% risk. Overall, that tornado risk has not really materialized, but that is still ongoing this morning and will end as we go into the afternoon hours. And then back over in the Carolinas, there's also a marginal and slight risk for severe weather, which does include South and North Carolina, and there's also that marginal threat that goes all the way back down near Savannah. Now, the main concern overall for today in that risk is going to be large hail and damaging winds. Your ordinary springtime thunderstorms would be the main concern. Notice that wind threat for today, it is an elevated risk across parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, where we could see some storms produce damaging winds as high as 80 miles per hour. So make sure that you are hatching down trampolines and protecting any loose lawn items outside. The flying trampoline risk for today is a high risk, so you definitely want to make sure that you're hatching down your trampolines. The hail risk for today, overall, it's pretty much the same anywhere you go. It is not the most significant risk by any means today, but there will be some storms out there that do produce the potential for some large hail. I don't anticipate anything, though, beyond the size of 2 inches in diameter. Your tornado risk for today, well, exists basically anywhere you go if you're in any of these 3 risks. So if you're a storm chaser, you can choose which one you want to chase, because you have plenty of options here across the United States. We got a 5% tornado risk in Kansas and Oklahoma. We also have that 5% chance back over in central Florida, which again, that was primarily this morning. It's beginning to wind down now. And we also have another tiny little tornado risk back over in South and North Carolina, where we actually had a couple of confirmed tornadoes yesterday. So that is something that is entirely possible again today. Now, as we go into tomorrow, which is tossing trampolines on tall trees Thursday, we have another large risk for severe weather, and I'm not ruling out that we get some sort of enhanced risk tomorrow as well. Right now, the Storm Prediction Center has a large marginal threat that goes from the lower Midwest back into the southern plains, including even parts of the Mississippi Valley. Now, the slight risk is really where all the action is going to be. That is where we're going to be watching for some significant severe weather, which includes very significant damaging winds, large to very large hail, and tornadoes throughout the morning and afternoon hours. It looks to be very active tomorrow, so we might be going live for that, so make sure that you're subscribed to the channel if you're not already. Now, the damaging wind risk, it's going to be a bit lower tomorrow, but in return, the hail risk is going to be higher. We're actually going to have a few storms out there during the late morning and into the early afternoon hours that do produce the potential for upwards of baseball to maybe even 3-inch sized hail. So you want to make sure that you are protecting your vehicle if you're included in that hatched risk. Now, the tornado risk, it's not really that much higher than today. In fact, it's actually going to be basically the same. We do have a large 2% region, though, which does include the Dallas-Fort Worth area, goes all the way back into southeast New Mexico, and it goes all the way down to Houston and even areas like San Antonio. Now, I wouldn't be too concerned about this tornado risk. I think it's going to be very low, and any tornadoes that happen tomorrow will likely be geared towards the weak and brief side of things, but I can't rule out a brief, strong tornado somewhere in that brown shaded area, which is about Midland, Texas, back just south of Abilene, so make sure that you're staying weather aware there. And once we go into Flying Fences Friday, we actually have another large area that we'll be watching for that goes from the lower Ohio Valley back into parts of the Mississippi Valley, where there's going to be another elevated risk for severe weather, and Friday is going to be more driven towards an MCS, which is a mesoscale convective system, and that's something we just had the other day back over in like Lake Charles and back even towards like Lafayette, Louisiana. We had that MCS roll through a large chunk of the state that produced widespread damaging winds and even a few tornadoes tornadoes were confirmed out of that, which, by the way, we've had 3 confirmed tornadoes in the Lake Charles area, which we confirmed 2 of those by radar. So in that live stream we had the other day, we did confirm a few of those. So just an FYI, that is another possibility, though, as we go into Friday, where there is again another slight risk for severe weather. Significant damaging winds, very well possible. They've already added a significant risk area here from central and eastern Louisiana back into southern Mississippi, where we could see some significant damaging winds as high as 80 miles per hour, and perhaps even a few tornadoes as well. So let's go through the timing for severe weather, and we will begin with today's risk. Beginning with around lunchtime today, storms will be rolling through areas like central Kansas, but overall, these are not going to be super significant by this time. The main concern will be some isolated large hail and maybe some damaging wind gusts. By the time we get closer to 5-6 o'clock tonight, we'll have a more widespread area of showers and thunderstorms. Really, the biggest concern out of this will be this area here, where the damaging wind threat will be elevated. Now, I would be watching northern Oklahoma closely, where we could get a rogue supercell that could produce an isolated tornado or two. So make sure that you're staying weather aware there. There is a chance that we go live for this today, but overall, it's a low chance. I don't think this is going to be a super organized setup by any means compared to what we saw something like last week. Now, once we get closer to 7-8 o'clock tonight, those storms do continue to move eastbound with mostly just an isolated damaging wind threat, and maybe another area of storms that produces damaging winds and maybe an isolated tornado in the Texas or Oklahoma Panhandle. And then by the time we get closer to 10, 11, 12 o'clock tonight, most of these storms are kind of dying down, and we're just dealing with a lot of rain overnight, which could lead to even an isolated flooding threat. Now, here's a closer view of everything. So notice around 7 o'clock tonight, that is probably going to be the peak of the severe weather threat, where we could get a discrete supercell or two that do produce an elevated tornado risk. So again, make sure that you're staying weather aware and have a tornado action plan in place just in case there's a tornado there. And then also another tornado risk could evolve around 7 to 10 o'clock tonight in the Texas or Oklahoma Panhandle. But again, overall, the risk is low, and luckily this is mostly going to be in rural areas of the southern plains. And then once we go into tomorrow, things are going to become much more numerous to widespread when it comes to storm coverage. We're going to have a lot of storms out there right around 10 a.m. tomorrow. Look at all those showers and thunderstorms. They're basically everywhere in North Texas. Once we go around lunchtime, though, that is when a better shot for severe weather will exist, with mostly a wind and hail threat existing with this particular cluster of storms that'll develop. That's going to be anywhere from the Dallas-Fort Worth area all the way back down near Abilene. And then by the time we go into the early to mid-afternoon hours, a couple of tornadoes will be possible out of that area of storms as well. By the time we get closer to 6 o'clock, this area of storms collapses down towards areas like Houston, with maybe again an isolated brief or weak tornado, and then damaging winds really the main concern after that. And then as we go into the overnight hours, things do start to wind down, but mostly a damaging wind threat as we go into areas like the lower Mississippi Valley. So make sure that you're staying weather aware there. Now let's talk more about the long term when it comes to severe weather, because it looks like it's going to get very active as we go into the last 10 days of May. Now, this is the CFS Week 1 Accumulated Supercell Composite Parameter. Now, we don't usually use this in forecasts, but it does give you a good idea of where the greatest chance, or at least where the chance for severe weather will exist in a given week. It has been highly accurate this year. I mean, it's been almost off the charts accurate this year across much of the United States. And this is what we're looking at for this week. So basically from now all the way through May 21st. Notice it shows areas like Florida and as well as the central and southern plains really in the main threat for any sort of severe weather potential, which is pretty impressive because that's basically what we're looking at for the next several days. But notice this as we go into the next week. So this is anywhere from May 22nd until the end of May, essentially to May 28th. Notice it shows the most greatest area for severe weather from the central and southern plains back even into the Ohio Valley. And I honestly think the Midwest and even back up here in the Ohio Valley will have a few shots at severe weather as we go into next week, as there will be multiple trough ejections that will be impacting the United States. So it's, again, something that we use a lot here in meteorology, at least to look at the severe weather potential during this time of the year. And again, it's been really accurate. So I do think that is a pretty good, solid representation of where we'll be seeing severe weather as we go into the last week of May. Let's kind of talk a little bit about the last week of May and as well as this week of May. Beginning with today, again, notice we'll have that large low pressure system moving offshore near near the East Coast. It'll still bring some showers and thunderstorms, and then again, we'll have some severe weather back over in the central and southern plains tonight. And then as we go into tomorrow, that severe weather threat starts to increase across the southern plains and then going back into the lower Mississippi Valley. By the time we go into Friday, things really active across the East Coast, where there will be plenty of showers, maybe some thunderstorms as well. But just again, if we see any thunderstorms, it's your ordinary garden variety sort of severe weather that we see here in the spring or even summer in those areas. Once we go into Saturday into Sunday, we'll be watching for a large-scale trough to impact areas in the upper Midwest. There might be some isolated severe weather with that, but it does not look super concerning right now, but it will be something to watch for. Once we go into Sunday into Monday, more showers and storms possible in the Midwest as we go really into late Sunday into Monday. By the time we go into Tuesday, another trough ejection over the Rocky Mountains will pose another threat for showers and thunderstorms in the Midwest and as well as the Great Lakes region. By Wednesday and Thursday of next week, things become really uncertain, but there will likely be more trough ejections here in the central and southern plains, and that'll likely lead to some more big severe weather events. How big? That still remains very uncertain since we are still well over 7 days out, but make sure to subscribe to the channel and we'll keep you posted with the latest as we do get closer to the severe weather events that are upcoming across the United States.